Hello and welcome in this series AI Fundamental under AI 101, and we are discussing today about the AI system flow, and I am Yagiraj Pandey. And in the overall AI system flow, we can see here the first we collect the data from the different sources. It could be from the primary source or some secondary source, and then we need to data process because to input for the input to the this network we need the data process. For example, it could be the noise reductions, and it could be the some outlier removal, and sometimes we need to augment the data if the data is less to train the networks, and the sometimes we need to adjust the size of the data. For example, if you have the data collected from the different camera or some different devices, then all the camera could have the different resolutions, different size, right? That's why the output image also could have the different size. That's why we need to make all the images with uniform size. That's why we need the data processing at the first. And the next step is the feature engineering step. In the feature engineering, particularly for the machine learning algorithm, we cannot directly input the high dimensional data in the machine learning algorithm. So, because the machine learning algorithm generally have the least number of the parameter to train, and that's why we use some mathematical functions to extract the features from the data, right? Features from the data in this stage, and then after collecting the features we generally train the model. And if you are dealing with the deep learning models, then this step could be removed, right? Because the deep learning model directly can extract the useful informations, useful features from the data, and after training the model, and we evaluate its performance. And if the performance is acceptable, then we can move forward. Otherwise, we need to make the multiple loops to adjust the model performance. And after that we deploy the system on the real world applications. For example, on our mobile, or some drone, or sometimes the chip, right? Microchips, and to experience the real world environment. And in the real world environment, if the model is working properly, then it's okay. Otherwise, we need to adjust some other. We need to adjust the model or features sometimes to get the acceptable performance here. This is the pipeline, right? And here we can see in the each step what are the different operations. For example, in the data acquisition, we first make the feasibility study, then collect the data from the primary or secondary source, and then filter the data, or sometime we need to make the annotation. For the supervised learning, we need the label. That's why we need to annotate the data, and then sorry then the feature engineering step, the data is processed, or some feature representation could be possible. And then we first deploy the prototype using some networks like deep neural networks or some machine learning algorithms. And if the prototype is okay, then we can move forward for the AI system deployment. And here we train our deep neural networks and evaluate it, and we try to boost the performance using the different different methodology, right? Uh, this could be the optimization methods or sometimes the regularization methods, and after that we deploy the system if it properly working, right? And if in each step you can see if the model is not perfectly get the result that we expect, then we can make the multiple loop in each steps here, right? Sometimes for a year or 2 years, some problem is sometimes modified. For example, if you are dealing with the agriculture related problem, like for example the tomato disease, then after the 2 years there could be the new tomato disease. That's why the model should recognize the new disease also. That's why uh, after some time we need to adjust the model and to explain the real world scenario, right? Otherwise, the AI system will be drift from its real world scenario and its performance. Right? After these different activities, sometimes we need to publish our work through the article or some patents. This is a overall system flow. The system could be the follow the system could follow the waterfall model, or sometimes the this type of the iterative methods, right? In the this is the waterfall model, and in this model, in each steps you are perfectly dealing all the tasks, and after completing the one step, then you move to the next step here. But it's sometimes it could be hard, because the deep learning model may be some data issue or some annotation issue, or sometimes the model could be the different from our expectation. So we generally use this type of the iterative model. In this iterative model, um, we evolve our system, our model on each iterations. Now the data acquisition here. In this data acquisition step, particularly we extract the data and its label, the features and the label, and then we generally transfer it into the tensor to use the data into the GPU to process the data by the GPU, and we need the data shuffling, because the sequential processing of this data is not a good way to train the model. That's why sometimes we need to shuffle the data and transform the data also. Transform, it could be the data augmentation method, might be the flipping, rotation, scale out, right, and color change. And then the data set could be very large, so all the data cannot be processed at the same time. That's why we need to split out the big data set into the small batch, and then we should input the data to the networks for the training, and that small chunk of the data which is processed at a time is called the batch. Okay, So the large data set, we use the batch for the training the neural networks here. Now the data annotation. In this data annotation, we already know the different problem of the deep learning in the previous session. And here, if we are dealing with the regression problem, then we need to make the label in the same way, because here we have some data and we need to predict the next values, right? Future values of the data. So in the label, you need to mention the ground truth for the futures value, and after and during the training, you can differentiate the predicted value and the ground truth for the training. This is the classification problem, as you know. In this classification problem, we categorize our category based on based upon its presence or absence. For example, here are horse and persons are present. Then we annotate these images as horse and persons. In the object detection, we describe the bounding box with the class and bounding box, or we describe all the object of interest with its localizations here. And in the semantic segmentation, we describe all the object of the interest using some polygons, and we differentiate the object with the pixels here. In the same way, we need to what we have the problem first, and according to our problem, we need to make the annotation to train the system. Here is one example using the object detection model, the problem solving using object detection in the strawberry disease. And here are the two ways. One is the large bounding box, and another is the small bounding box. Right here inside the left, you can see here with the green bounding box, and the big one is the bounding box with the red colors. And so here is the question whether we should make the large bounding box or small bounding boxes purport to solve this problem. Okay, and the answer is that if we choose the small bounding box, it's better because the system can identify the disease textures here, right? Disease characteristics, and try to find this type of the disease characteristics in all the area of the plants. Otherwise, if we make the big bounding box like this, and then the similar structure or similar texture could not be possible all the time, right? That's why using the large bounding box is not a proper way to make the annotation here. Similarly, we have another example. Here we have the four classes of the disease, strawberry disease, and we need to annotate the data in this way. You can see here. And after the data annotation, you need to train your neural networks, right? In the neural network, this is one perceptron, and here you can understand how the neural network can train. For example, you need to use this is the here x1, x2 to xn is the input, and this is the bias, and you have the weight with associated with each inputs, and the whole pipeline, whole output of this input, and the output input and the weight is the element wise multiplication of input and the weight and the plus the bias, right? This is the output, and then we pass this output linear output to the non-linearity. This is the activation function, and we get some result, right? And this is the forward process, forward pass, as you can see here. And in the forward pass, we compute the neural network predictions. This is the prediction, and then we compare the output with its actual value. We called the difference as a loss, and after calculating the loss, we need to adjust this weight and bias, because here the trainable things is only the weight and bias. Other things we cannot train. Right? We cannot train the input. We cannot train other functions. Only we need to adjust the weight and bias, and based on this weight and bias value, the predict the prediction need to more similar like the actual, so that we can train our network. And first it could be the loss could be the high, and then we try to gradually decrease the loss, right? And for adjusting the weight and bias, we need to calculate the gradient on the backward processing from the loss to the weight, and the gradient is the change in loss with respect to weight, right? We calculate the first derivative of the loss with respect to weight, and based on that, and we try to adjust the value of the weight and bias according to our calculated loss, right? This is the training process, and after training, the model should be deployed on web page, or sometime uh, web server, or sometime in the mobile, or sometime it could be in the micro chips, right? And we need to deploy it. For example, here we can see the model is deployed on a web server to provide some web services to the users here. Yeah, this is the some whole pipeline of this system flow, and yeah, that's it for today. And if you have any query, then you can directly comment on the video, or you can directly mail me to this email. Thank you very much for your attention.